At a time, one day at a time. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's three Prakim Rambam, Hilchos Gedushin, Prakim Zayin, Ches, and Tes, beginning with the seventh chapter. The seventh chapter is all about a shliach who's delivering a get from one location in Eretz Yisrael to another, delivering a get from outside Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael, in which the shliach has to make the statement, Befanai nechtav, ubefanai nechtam, and all of the many halachas surrounding this law, which is really the beginning of Masechtas Gittin. This chapter has 24 halachas. This is from the smaller chapters today. And starting with halacha al. Let's go. Shliach shehevi get mimakim lamakim in Eretz Yisrael proper. There, the rule is the norm. Even though the shliach did not see the get being written, even when the shliach doesn't know who are the witnesses that signed, the husband gave the shliach the get for Amarlein, and the husband asked the shliach, please deliver the get, give the get to my wife, or what I call to my ex-wife to be. Then he can fulfill the shlichus by giving it to her, tak in front of two witnesses. The rule is, we'll see, Eid Mesira Karta. You have to deliver it in front of two witnesses. Even though we don't know who are the ones that sign, nevertheless, it's a valid get. She will be divorced. And she obviously divorced, meaning she can get remarried because she's now a free woman. Now, halacha base, if the husband later comes, and he lodges a complaint, and he says, never sent a get. The get that was brought from a shliach, it's a forged get. And this will be similar to any challenge against any document. So there's a rule that then Yiskayem b'choismav, Beis Din will make an independent investigation. They will authenticate or notarize the signatures of the two witnesses. That's called kiyum ashtar. In our case, it's going to be a kiyum get. It's done dafke by a Beis Din, and that will counter the husband's claim. And indeed, if the husband makes this challenge and we're unable to authenticate the signatures, by the way, kiyum ashtar is, there's many different ways of doing it. None of the ways work. So then the husband's taina will indeed invalidate the get. If this woman got remarried, she has to leave the new husband because she's still married to the first husband. And if she had children with the second man, God forbid, then the children are mamzedim because she's not divorced. Furthermore, if the get was lost, so you are unable to be mekayim the edim because you don't have the document, now there's no way to verify or not to verify, so it puts a question mark on the get. And therefore, lefikach, nashim, that there are halacha, there are certain women shecheskasim that they hate one the other. They're not believed to bring a get from in the land of Israel from one location to the other, because there we are more afraid independently that the get is forged, and the woman who's delivering it is doing it to mess up the one who's getting the get by her thinking that she's divorced, by her getting married, and then she has to leave the new husband, and her kids, God forbid, will be mamzedim. Halacha Gimel, which are the women, which women's, halachically, we have a chazaka that they hate one the other, a mother-in-law, the daughter of a mother-in-law, no, it's Vitzarasa, any co-wife, even if the co-wife now are not married to the same. They used to be co-wives. Now one of them got divorced and got married to another man. The hatred remains. The Yevimta, someone who is a Yevama, Afilu hoisa achoisa ubas bailo. This is important. In other words, the wife of the brother of the husband. Let's say two sisters are married to two brothers, even if there's two sisters. Now, if two sisters are married to two brothers, if one of them passes away, one of the brothers, a man cannot marry two sisters. But if his current wife will pass away, You can only not marry two sisters when when they're both alive, even if one of them is divorced. But if one of them died, then you could. So that possibility also creates the din of they hate one the other, and they cannot be a shliach. Avol shar kol anoshim kshedes. Now we begin. What's other than those scenarios, a shliach is believed, and if the husband will challenge, then you have to deal with it. However, halacha dalet, maybe get mamakim and lamakim. But it's Yisrael. Oh, let's continue. If a get is brought from one place to the other in the Holy Land, and the shliach becomes ill. In other words, he cannot fulfill the shlichus. So now we're going to learn some laws of shlichus. Mishalchoi b'yad acher. One shliach can appoint another shliach. If the second shliach gets ill, the second can appoint a third shliach, even 100. And ve'ein tzarech edom lasi shliach b'fneim. You don't need edom in front of whom to make another shliach. You can appoint a shliach without edom. And the last one, who ultimately delivers the get into the hand of the woman, only that one has to deliver it in front of two witnesses, like we mentioned, edom mesira karta, and she'll become divorced. And the biggest chiddush is, even if when the last shliach, when he delivered it, the first shliach already passed away, doesn't matter. He's considered the shliach of the mishaleach, and the husband is alive. Halacha 5. Now we begin. If you're delivering the get not in the Holy Land, in one location to another location outside Israel, or from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, or from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Let me just say by heart here, the challenge is that if the husband later will come and say that the get is mezuyav, it's going to be much harder to be mekayim the document, because not everyone in this location is familiar with the signatures, with the signature of the Edom. Now we know that theoretically, prior to the husband saying mezuyav, the get is good. We know that. But we have to take into account that he might come and claim the whole thing is a forgery. So in Israel, where people are constantly traveling from one place to the other, knowing that that is a challenge that could be countered, so let things be the way they are. And if the challenge comes about, we'll deal with it then. Since if the husband says mezuyif now, it's going to be much harder to authenticate it. So the Chachamim lechatchila said that it has to be given in a way that the husband won't halachically be able ever to say it's mezuyif. I want to add a nuance. If the husband brings witnesses, Keva, that the document is forged, no statement that the shliach makes will help. But we're not concerned for that rarity. We're concerned for the power that the husband has without any proof. Stam to say the document is forged. And then if you cannot be mekayim the Edom, what, the woman will never be divorced, or if she got married, the kids will be mamzerim, we have to counter that. So the shliach, only if and when the shliach was standing while they wrote the get, means he saw it being written, with all of the rules that it has to be written for the man, for the wife, the shem gerushin, and he saw the witnesses signing it. Was he saw all that? Now he's able, and therefore he must say the following statement. Now he says it in front of two. B'fanai nechtav, in front of me it was written, in front of me it was signed. B'fanai nechtav, and this is like a notarization. I know it's normally to notarize the signatures, you have to have two Edom for every. This is good enough, but it's mamish, it's another medium of notarizing the document. And now, now the get should be given, even though we don't know who the Edom are. Another nuance. Sometimes when documents come from Chutz La'aretz, Jews in Chutz La'aretz sometimes have Goyish names. That's a whole different topic. Why does Bechlal the Isur of not having Goyish names? Does it mean not having names that are used by clergy, by Goyim, but other names are okay? That's another topic. The point is that even if the Edom's names are like Goyim, we don't suspect that they are Goyim, because it was not so unusual for Jews that live outside Israel to use non-Jewish names. So we're good with that. Now, what's the advantage of the shliach declaring b'fanai nichtav u'b'fanai nechtam halacha v'al that bo habal v'eder, that now if the husband comes and without proof, or just saying that the document to get is a forgery, ein mashgichen boy, we don't listen to him, which is great. And now lefikach af hanoshim. Now, since they're not believed, what was the worry? Why did we say before that the women, right, that hate each other cannot deliver the get? because one is trying to ruin it for the other. How are they ruining it? Because they're going to give a document that later the husband can claim is forged, or maybe it's forged. Once the husband cannot say it's forged, they can deliver it. This is mamish gewaldig. Now you can begin learning Masechtas Gittin. Halacha Zayin. Chein shliach she'evi get Eretz Yisrael v'Amar. Right? Even though in Israel you don't have to make that statement, but if he made the statement because it was true that the that is midrabanan like a kiyum hashtar, like the kiyum aget, and therefore im yavei habal v'yared ein mashkichin boy. The imen hashliach omed b'shas ksiva v'chasima. Now, if the shliach was not there, if he was not there, my friends, he cannot make that statement. Does that mean he cannot deliver it? No. Prior to him leaving the location of the writing and the signing, let him notarize it there. In other words, you can notarize a document prior to it being challenged. Which is great. First, verify the signatories. And now, same concept, the husband later won't have the ability to challenge the authenticity of the document. We're not going to learn the details of Kiyum Ashtar, but one thing I can tell you, Yakir, that Kiyum Ashtar has to be done with the Beis Din. The Shliach can be one of the Dayanim. Now, if he did not notarize it and he cannot make the statement, B'fanei nichtav or B'fanei nechtam, harei pasul. In other words, the Chachamim said that it's not a good get. Achi Yiskayim. And therefore, V'im Bahabal V'ired V'loi Niskayim, Eino Migoreshes. But I get, harei Sofik Migoreshes. Halacha Ches. Answer is, as we spoke on before, and why not? Why don't we deal with the problem when the problem comes up? Because when you know that if the problem comes up, it's going to be very hard to deal with it, then you have to deal with it before. In Eretz Yisrael, if he'll say Mezuyif, you can deal with it then. If it's coming mechutz laretz Eretz Yisrael or me'eretz Yisrael lechutz laretz, ein shayoros mitzuyos, it's going to be so much harder. The Chachamim says, no, deal with it now. And they gave an easy way. One statement of one shliach is like a kiyum hashtar. Halacha 9. Now, like we said up hard, one shliach saying b'fanei nechtav doesn't completely take away the husband's power of challenging the get. You know why? What do you think? You think that it's not possible to forge a get and to give it and to make the statement when the husband never did it? That such a thing is possible. But the husband has to bring Eidim, that it's Mezuyif. He has to bring Eidim. That's halachat. That's Baal shehevi raya berura. Raya berura means witnesses. The husband still has that power. We believe Eidim more than one shliach's word that b'fanei nechtav. Harei ze batel. Shelo ye'eminu devarav shelo echad shem b'fanei nechtav. Elam litchais irur habar she'eni mo'iraya. Avu b'makom Eidim shemachishim mo'isoi b'makom Eidim. That's the meaning of raya. Then lo ye'eminu. Halacha Yud and the Hadish of Eretz Yisrael. Rivers in Eretz Yisrael, v'hananosim shabayam hagadol, and islands in the Mediterranean. We want to speak about what's considered Israel. Now we're not going to push it. We have to learn a lot today. But the Rambam himself writes that he's going to speak more details in the laws of Trumos, in Hilchos Trumos, really in Perek Aleph, Halacha Zayin, Halacha Ches, Halacha Tes. What are the boundaries of Israel? And not only that, Yakir, our islands west of Israel that are halachically considered part of Israel. They have a din of Eretz Yisrael, which means that if the get came from that location, or if it's being delivered in that location from another location in the Israel, then you don't have to say b'fanei nechtav, b'fanei nechtav. There are other such islands that are considered halachically chutz l'tchum, outside the boundary chutz la'aretz. What is that boundary? Is ba'ar tchum Eretz Yisrael. And finally, the Rambam says Bavel is like Eretz Yisrael. That means if you deliver a get from one place in Bavel to another place of Bavel, being that shayaros mitzuyois, and therefore you don't have to say this statement. Halacha Yudalev getcha k'savi ba'aretz, but it was signed b'chutz la'aretz. That's the key. Where was it signed? Sarach sheyoymar b'fanei nechtav. But in the opposite, k'savi b'chutz la'aretz. But if it was signed ba'aretz, In other words, the makim chasima sa'edim is essential. You know why? Because all we want to know whether it will be easy later to verify the signatures of the edim. So where are the edim? So that's why we care more about where it was signed. Allah Yud Beis. Nichtav mixas saget lebefanav. The nichtam kula befanav. Then when we speak about only some of it was written, so let's get familiar with toidef and toifes. So if the beginning of the get was written in front of the witness, until today, when they write a get, no one should know the statements that are made are not made every word. They have to make a statement. You should know. They remind you. You're writing it l'shem ish, l'shem isha, l'shem gerushin. Like all of the dinim that it has to be done properly is said in the beginning. And then everything is like when you bake matzah, l'shem mitzvahs matzah. They don't say it every second. They say it every while. So if you saw the beginning, that's good. And that's even if only one line was written in front of him. If I feel shama kana kulmis, he's allowed to say befan in front of nechtam, because all of the dinim happen in the beginning. Even if that happened, if in the middle of the writing he left, maybe he found another get in the market. He can still say befan nechtam. But if the shliach doesn't say befani nechtam, or if the shliach says befani nechtam but not befani nichtav, or if he says befani nichtav and only 1/8 signed in front of me but not the second 8, now in the last case there was still a solution. Afilu hoyo hu ha'ed hasheni, not good enough. Hareze yiskayim b'chois b'av. It's mamish gavaldik. In other words, since the Chachamim said that you have to be mekayim the signators, Elamad, they said that one person is good enough. But for his own, you have to have two. If you take and notarize it by two people, it is a kosher. Because then you have his statement on witness number 1, which Chazal believed, and 2 proper witnesses on witness number 2. Halacha 14. Now, everything we said until now, Yakir, is because there's one shliach. But think about it. If you have 2 witnesses, the husband gave it to 2. And they don't have to make any statements. Why not? Because the 2 shluchim will tell Beis Din, no, 1 second. What do you mean it's forged? You gave it to us. The shluchim are witnesses. Imagine 2 people come. Forget about the whole thing. 2 people come here and they say, we witnessed a woman getting a get from her husband. She's divorced. To aid him. Even if you don't have a get. So why would this be different? Bisman that they get take yoitze miyachneim, which means Yakir that both of them were the shluchim, both of them were asked by the husband to deliver it. Aval bisman she'enis matachas yodam. If they're not both shluchim, they happen to be traveling together, then they have to say before they nechtam. Lefikach imam ro echad befani nechtam, v'ha'achar befani nechtam, v'afilu shnayim befani nechtam, v'echad befani nechtam, hoyel ve'eni yoitze miyachas yachneim lo yenasala, as we learned before, ad. If any one of the witnesses did not have the shliach statement, which is the shliach statement is like 2. Halacha 16. Because 2 witnesses saying that we saw it being signed, that's kiyum hashtar. Halacha Yud Zayin shliach shevi get b'chutz la'aretz u'nesana la beinoi lebeina. He didn't give it in front of a Beis Din. Oh, what are we saying right now? The get is not good. Guys, what does it mean the get is not good? The get can never be used? No, 1 second. They did not say something they should have said. It can be fixed. You know what you have to do? Take it back from the woman and give it by making the statement. If they can make the statement. Even though she already got remarried. So first of all, since that statement has to be made, when you didn't make it, she cannot get married. And even if she got married, we still say it's not good. But it's something that you can fix. The shliach takes it back at any point in the future. And you know what? And if he didn't do it that way, the son-in-law, the shliach lost the power of speech. So then, like we learned before, whenever the shliach cannot say it, she has to first notarize the document, even though the husband did not make an irur. And only then can you give it to her. Halacha 19, Hasuma, well, not she, it has to be notarized. I don't care who does it. Well, yeah, well, she can lead that campaign. Who cares for her other than her? But it has to be done. Even though by other documents, you don't have to notarize it if there is no irur. That's the whole point. We don't want to have by a get the ability for him being ma'adad without aid. And you have to take it away. Halacha 19. Hasuma, because a blind person cannot say b'fanei nechtav or b'fanei nechtav, because in front of me is only good if you can see what's happened. And therefore, while he was still healthy, and then the nistama, we'll see soon why b'fnei shloisha yakir. Then he can still say it because it's emes. Again, we'll see soon in the 3 in a moment. Because normally you don't have to give it in front of 3. In front of 2 is enough. If she herself brings it. Now, if she brings it, why does she have to bring it? So we'll see in a moment, a man can give his wife the get directly, which is normally what happens. And he can tell her, I'm not giving it to you for you to be divorced. I'm giving it to you for you to be the shliach, the shlucha, to bring it in front of that beis din, and there it's going to be valid. We always mention 2. What's the 3? Because if the shliach is kosher le'edus, he has to give it in front of 2. But he, for this din, becomes one of the 2. He makes up the beis din. He's mitzdaref in mashnayim. Why do you have to have 3? Because kiyum hashtaros has to be done by a beis din. No, it's good. That's something else. It doesn't matter. So he's valid. He can do it. But no. Now Asuma is now not a dayan. V'nimtza b'chlal hashloisha sheyikaimu getzeh b'dvarav sheho'ed nasa dayan b'davar shum midivreim. But you cannot be a dayan if you're blind, as we'll learn in Ilchas Sanhedrin. Halacha chav. It's great. Chol hashliach hainenas u'bol lebeis din v'oimar lohem. Get zeh, but I cannot deliver it because I don't have koyach to give it to the woman. So he goes to another beis din where he is. The beis din sends it in the hands of another shliach. Now here's the beauty. And the eino achron sarach leim b'fanei nechtam. All the last guy has to say is that I'm a shliach beis din. And we rely that the beis din did whatever needed to be done. We rely that the first beis din heard that statement from the shliach, and now you can give it just in front of Eidim. Halacha 21, Chala Sheni. If that continues to happen, point is that you'll always have to appoint that shliach and a beis din. When we learned in this chapter that shliach ois shliach, if that's when you don't need the b'fanei nechtav. V'afilu meya, and the achron just has to say shliach beis din on it. The nice law, as we mentioned before, that shliach ois shliach is so powerful, even if the first shliach is not living when the last guy gives it, because he's not empowered by the shliach before him. He's empowered by the mishaleach. Aval, even this guy might get b'chaisma, if that will be the other option, then even if it was given from a shliach to a shliach, even 100, beinam lebein atzmam, and one gave it to the other, not in front of anyone, and ultimately the get made it to her hand, that is a caution. And like we mentioned before, even if the husband did not tell the shliach, I give you the power to send another shliach, even if he didn't say it, im chaloy nenas, he should do it, but if he gets sick, because shliach is a shliach. Halacha 22. Some rules about shlichus. You don't have to make the other shliach in front of a beis din. Or something else. Listen to this. You don't even have the shliach doesn't even have to tell the shliach. He can notify beis din, that person is my shliach, and even shaloi b'fanav. V'chein hashliach oisa shliach achar shliach v'fanav ilo meyom. Halach of Gimel, ha'isha nosan get le'ishtoi. V'nichta v'nechtam v'fan neha. She saw it being written. Now, normally, if he would give it to her, Yakir, that would be the end of the story. But when he gave it to her, he told her, I'm not giving it to you for you to get divorced. Elama, harei shlucha. He's making her crazy until the end. Lohoilacha, ad based in Ploini. Vehem yamdu shliach vitnocha get zavetiskar shiboy. Harei zenu menes leme b'fnei b'fanei nechler fanei nechtam. Vehem noitel loisnam, and they give it to a shliach. Litnen lo kamay merabal. Final halacha b'medvarim amurim halacha chav dalet. V'shehisna lehabal tenaize. If he made that statement. Avalom lo yisna leam elanasan gita. A normal case, a man divorces his wife. Harei get yoytzim mitachas yodo. Then einot tzricha loimer klum. Harei becheskas migoyreshes. Hoil the get should be yodo is written kilchasei, and there are edim signed on it. Even though we don't know who are the ksavo edim aloy neskayim, if we have a document in the hand of the woman, en choishish lo shema zifa oisoi that it was forged. Shaharei eina mekalkelas. She's not going to ruin her own life. What she forged it. But oid sho edim achsem ala get. There's a rule. That's the normal din. Lefikach naman aget becheskas evitinose. Ve'ein choishin shema yimatzam mezuyev. Kumoy shenaman aget becheskas kosher kisheyavi oisa shliach achi erabal oyachi mezuyev oy batal. That's a very important halacha because shema tabi lachush levaram elu sheim tachush, because if you're going to be suspect, you're going to suspect at kedekach, even though she has the document and he gave it to her. So then listen, forget about the case where she comes. What happens if there's people witnessing the man giving his wife a get? How do you know that what was given is kosher? There's a concept that a man can write a get and he can be mevatel the get. Giving you an example, a man can write a get. After he wrote the get, he has a marital relation with his wife. The get is batel. Maybe that happened. Now, if someone claims it happened, you'll have to deal with that. But we don't suspect so far. Shema bitloy, and then he gave it to her. Or maybe you have two witnesses. Maybe one of the Edom Apsulim. And then it's Harekim Zuv Metoicha. Or maybe it was not written Lishma. Namid al Cheskasei. Two people see the husband giving it to his wife. It's good. Unless you know it's a problem. And the Rambam concludes with a very powerful statement that by Isser v'heter we follow Chazakas. It's amazing that by Isser v'heter we are more lenient than by Dinim Amanis. By Dinim Amanis we don't follow Chazakas. By Dinim Amanis you have to have, right, Hamoitzim Echaveri all of Araya. Chazaka is not Araya. Edim is Araya. Fakert, the Muchzak is Chazaka. But by Dinim Yisurim you follow Chazakas. She'ein Dinim Yisurim k'Dinim Amanis. You're more lenient. Eloma, the whole pedic is that if a shliach is the one delivering it, michutz la'aretz l'eretz Yisrael, and it's Yisrael michutz la'aretz l'chutz la'aretz v'makam she'ein hashayorois mitzuyois. There, the Chazal said the shliach statement b'fanei nichtav or b'fanei nechtam is like a kiyum ashtar. Until the Baal will bring a raya berura, it takes away his power to claim a zuyov. Okay. Now we are starting the 8th chapter. The 8th chapter, my friends, is going to be about giving a get on a condition. These are things that are not done nowadays. But theoretically, like by Kedushin, same by Gittin, we're learning about Gittin, a person can make a stipulation. And you know what? The get will only go into effect fully. The word fully will be so important when the condition is met. Now, the next chapter, the 9th chapter, is going to be a lot of miscellaneous scenarios of Tanoim. But this will be the principal dinim of Tanoim. This chapter, again, only has 24 halachas. I think the next chapter might be the biggest chapter in the Rambam. But let's dive in. To get to the next chapter, we have to learn this chapter. Let's go. Halachal. Hamagadash al tonight. The man divorces his wife on a condition. So that concept works, meaning, im niskayim atnai, arezim migoreshes. Im loy niskayim atnai, ene migoreshes. Ukvar beyarnu beperek shishim hilchis issues, the general rules of conditions. Guys, who here remembers the 4 rules of a tanai? I'll tell you the words. Tanai has to be tanai kafel. It has to be hen koidem lalav. It has to be tanai koidem lamasa. And it has to be davar she'ef shalakayim. So you have to follow these rules. Then the Hemi Goreshes, but from when? Not retroactive, in a normal tonight, which is you'll do this. Only B'Shah Yiskayim. And not when he gives the get into her hand. We're going to learn exceptions, Yakir. If you say Almanas, if you say Ma'achshav, we're going to play that all up. But the normal condition, if you'll do this, if you'll do that. Since it's only fully into effect until when the condition is met, even though he gave it to her already, if it's not fully effective, I'm saying the word fully, that's very important. It's not shot that when you give a get al tanai, nothing begins at all, only when the condition is made. Gamzaloi. We're going to learn that in the next chapter. In this chapter, by a normal tanai, it begins to go into effect. These are the words. But it's only fully in effect when the condition is met. And therefore, the husband can be mevatel it. Or he can add another condition. He can make he can add on the condition. He can make a new condition. Calls manshal in his kaimat tanai edition. Afal pisha get liyada. Furthermore, if the husband dies, or if the get was lost, or if it was burned, before the condition was met, she's not divorced. Now listen to these words. That's the shakers. Yeah, if she gets married, even though the condition was not met, yakir, loy teitzei. Wow. That's where we see from the Rambam the first time. Why loy teitzei? If a married woman now gets married to another man, the other marriage is nothing and nothing and nothing. Yes, teitzei, loy teitzei. Because since she got a get, you can't say that the get did not start to go into effect. So if she already got married, loy teitzei, ella imkein loy nishar b'yad. There's one thing. If she knows she can't fulfill the Tanai, she knows the Tanai won't be fulfilled, then the get is bottled. But as long as it's possible for her to fulfill the Tanai after she got married, already you see the get started to go into effect, she stays married. A lot more coming. Don't jump over your seat. That's even more. That means when it's met, it goes retroactive. Or if he uses the words almanas, almanas is that then kishe yiskayim atanai teimigoreshes mishas and sinas get liyada. It's also not effective now, but it's going to become effective retroactively. Lamay nafkamina. Who cares? I'll tell you who cares. Lafikach einu yachal lavat get. V'loy lohoisev al tanoi. From when the get comes into her hand. Furthermore, even if the get was lost or if it was burned, even if the husband dies before the condition being met, if the condition will be met after his death, she'll be divorced. Ein get la'achar misa doesn't matter; it goes back retroactive. Ukvar nisgar sham nishas nesinas aget liyada. And more than that, she can get married lechatchila. She can get married lechatchila. Afal pisha dailam niskayim atanai. The ein choshun shem lo yiskayim, because a woman will never do that. A woman doesn't want to trip herself up. As long as it's biyada. And she will fulfill it, and it's going to go back retroactive. She can get married already. Halacha 2. Is only goes into effect fully later. Yichud should never happen. Ella, there has to be one person there. One other person takes away the yichud. And even if the other person is an eved or a shivcha, as long as it's not her shivcha or b'na katan, because in front of them, there's no shame to have a tashma shamita. Why is that? Because why? Because whenever a couple that were married had yichud, there's a real halachic chashash shema niv'ala, and if a couple had bia after a get, prior to the get going fully into effect, the get is batal. And I'll tell you more, Yakir. If a couple has yichud after they gave a get, even after the get was given and it was already into effect, Shema, they had be'ila. And maybe it was be'ila l'shem kedusha. That's why nowadays, for example, if a couple, God forbid, is going to get a get, the first thing Beis Din will ask the couple is, do they already have separate addresses? Because many times people think with the shtus of nesting, with all these Rahman al-Islam, these Mishagasan of this 2023, then if a couple has yichud together, they need another get. People have to remember that. And Rabbanim that marry divorced women, they should ask that in private. Because just because a divorced woman pulls out a get, people are so unfamiliar with this tragically. They're so comfortable with each other. They end up going out with each other. They're amicable. And it's a big problem. Okay. Now, let's go into so this concept of a Tanai. Where exactly do you write the Tanai? Now, you have to know another din by heart, that a get is only a get if it's koiris, if it absolutely severs their tie. So therefore, Yakid, if the Tanai will be written in the get at the wrong place, that get is not an absolute get. It's going to completely ruin the get. So a Tanai can be said verbally. Let's read it inside. Loisha yoymar kisvu get leishti al Tanai. That ruins it. Not kisvu tunula al Tanai. The ain't sarach leimer that lo yichta b'teicha get. You shouldn't have in the get the words written al Tanai zeh shegedish pleni yes plenis. Allocates it. How do you do? You tell the Sefer to write into the Adam to sign absolutely with no condition in the world. The Choisman get kosher but loishem Tanai ba'olam. But the achakach, when he gives her the get, he tells her also he has to make the first statement is absolute. Hadei zagite. Hadei amigoreshes bozer. Almenas kach vekach. Oishim lev oyel shliach. To no get. Absolute. Almenas kach vekach. Now halacha dalet details. Kosav a get. Kosav a Tanai beget, which he shouldn't have done, but he wrote it. Achar shegomer lichtov toirev aget. Guys, the toirev, just to know, there's the toifes and the toirev. The toirev is the essential portion of any document. By a get, the toirev is his name, her name, unique for them. The words harei at mikoreshes, harei at muteres l'chol adam, that's absolute. If it was written in the get after b'diavad, it's okay. No, sure. Everyone's in full. Sure. Harei ze get, harei ze kosher. Even though it was before the chesima. Certainly if it was written after Chassidus Edom, because at least the Toiref was written absolutely. Even though they wrote Almanas kach v'kach, because as long as the husband retains rights to his ex-wife, and that's documented, he got a problem. Here it's a suffix. But he told it to her prior to the writing of the Toiref. Also, Safek Gerushin, Allah, hey, Hamagodash Sishtoi, the Hisno Leo, Bein Bechsav, Achar HaToiref, Bein Alpa Achar HaToiref. That means he said the condition at the right time. The Amar law, but what's his condition? He says, that's absolute. Then he says, Chutz mi Ishploini. Oi, Elo le Ishploini. The Nasam lo Aget al Tanai. So here's like this. If that person is someone any ways with whom she's not allowed to marry, if that man is a goy, if the man is an eved, the Kanani, or asar al mishum erva, like it's the father or a brother, or aviv or achiv, then it is a get kosher, because his tanai did not change anything. But ish, someone with whom she can get married, even if it's someone with whom she's not allowed to get married, but there's only a chiyuv lav, we don't paskin like Rabbi Kiva. We do paskin that kedushin will be toifes, even if he's a minor. In other words, and a minor's kedushin is not a kedushin, but you know what? Chutz from that minor, but he'll become an adult. Eino get. Shadei shir baget. He retained rights to his wife through the get, and therefore it's b'chlal not a get. Ein zekrisus. Another case. If the person who he says you cannot marry that man is this woman's sister's husband, like we mentioned. Your brother-in-law, because a man cannot marry two sisters, even if he divorces his current wife, if she's still alive, he cannot marry her. So you can argue, anyways, they can't marry. It's not true, because maybe her sister will die, and then they will be allowed to get married. So that is a t'nai that's binding. Because the sister is alive, but he makes a stipulation regarding someone that's not ba'olam now, or he says you're good eshes chutz mize nuzeich, a side of promiscuous relations. Now, in other words, what he's saying is that you can marry anyone you want, but out of marriage, if a woman is single and she has a promiscuous relation, it's not nice, but she's not oiver an isur kares. She's not a married woman. So he's saying that if you're not going to be married to anyone else, then it should be like you're still married to me. And you can't be mezana. But abel is news, you're like an Eshes Ish. Or you're permitted to be with anyone having a normal bia. Then you're as if you're married to me. How do you affect Kedushin? Right? 3 ways. You can marry anyone you want, but for whatever reason, shtar should not be one of the ways. I still retain the rights to be made for your Nadarim. There's no bind of marriage from the power that a husband has regarding beino lebeino, whatever the rules are. For that, or you can eat truma, or the in Yerusha, that he still wants that if she predeceases him, he'll yarshin her. Now that's not good, right? But then he takes it away. Because the men that he connect the what's the words? The rights that he retained, he gave away. But now let's go into details. What happens if he says, and then he changes it, but when he changes it, he only says, but you know what, you can marry Reuven. Now he mentioned Reuven and Shimon. Since he mentioned Shimon second, when he changes it later, only changing Reuven, he did not change Shimon. So Shimon is still Asr. So he retained rights to his wife. So the get is not a get. But what happens? See, here it could be, since he says you're Asr to Reuven and Shimon, when he says you're mutter to Shimon, it could be he meant to both. Or even more, if he says, it's af l'Shimon. Now you can say af for sure means Reuven. No, maybe af means you're mutter to all other men and to Shimon. Again, it's not clear what he meant with Reuven. Then Hadez is Safak Yerushin. Shem loitira ela l'Shimon. Or maybe Reuven be Surah Yomet. He said af. Af in the case of no af l'chol adam af l'Shimon. And if he didn't say af, the fact that he only said Shimon, he meant Huadin Reuven. Why is that? Because when he said Chutz, he said Shimon after Reuven. So now that he's mentioning Shimon, maybe he meant that's the subject. Today you're fully divorced, but tomorrow you're back my wife. Even though you can say once a woman is divorced, if it's chal, then how is she married to him without kedushin? She's not. No, because the get is not davar hakoyres. And that's why you write in Old Gittin, min hayom, ule olam, olam. Halacha yud, harei zegiteich, al menashe letishti yain kol yimei chayoichi. As long as you are alive, you can't drink in a get, because he's binding her with something forever. But if he writes all the days of my life, or all the days of someone else's life, harei zeget. You know why, Yakir? Because if a man tells his ex-wife to be, you can never drink wine as long as you're alive, it means for sure, all of her life she'll be bound by the first husband. So it's b'chalal not again. But if the husband says all of the days of the husband's life, could be he'll die before, could be. So you can't say that he's keeping something that's binding. He's keeping something binding a little bit, like any other condition. But when the condition will. Again, if it's temporary, then harei a get. But if he says that you can never go to base of lo'ilam, ain't a get. Same concept. Even if it's only one type of wine, ain't a get at all. But if he says only for 30 days, and 30 days doesn't mean 30 days, he can say until 10 years. Then harei a get. Now she won't be allowed to drink the wine, but the get is a get. And let's understand. Let's go to another detail. And what could she do? So if he says during those 30 days, she cannot get married. And if she got married, we learned loy seitze. If she can be mekanim. And if he says ma'achshav almanas, then she can even get married during the 30 days. You just can't drink that wine. Halacha yud beis. Harei ze gitech almanas shaloi tinasi leploini ain't a get. Because hol amaza doim lo imer lo almanas shaloi tishti yain zel oilam or shaloi tech lebeis avich lo oilam or kol yimei chayaychi all of the days of your life. Aval amar lo almanas that you can't marry so and so for 50 years. Then yes, harei ze get. It's like you can't drink wine for 50 years. Yes. But because man shehisnas. The imni says, God forbid, but I get lemafreya. Furthermore, zonas imoi havlad memeno kasha. Huh? No. If she breaks the tanai, then the get is lemafreya bottle. She remains married to the first guy. The first guy gave her kedushin when he married her. No, because she's married. Zanas imoi havlad memeno kasher if I get kasher, because you have to follow the words. The words is that you should not marry that guy. She didn't marry him; she only had a relation with him. Halacha yud gimel. Harei ze gitech almanas shetinase leploinig. Imni says loy almanas. You marry that guy. You know what happens? Great, she fulfilled her condition. He did not say. It's kavalik. He made a condition like he's not binding her forever. She marries that guy, and that's it. And the get is a get. Aval the Chachamim says you can't do that. She cannot marry anyone. Why? To that guy she cannot get married because it looks like men are giving their wives to each other with a gift. I'm giving you a get. I'm gonna ask you marry him. Now, now that she cannot marry him, what does it mean? She's not allowed to be Mekayim de Tanai. If a woman is not allowed to be Mekayim de Tanai, even though it's Migzeras Chachamim, then she won't be divorced. She ain't get Tanai. Now, what happens if she married that person? Don't forget, the Chachamim said you shouldn't do it. But if she broke that rule, Lo say, because the Chachamim are not saying that she can't. She shouldn't. But if Nisa is la'achar koidim shetinas loy, then she violated the get. I get bottle. But here's a very important line, guys. Even in the cases where the get is mamish bottle, so you would say if the get is bottle, so the second marriage is not effective. If there was already nesuyin in the second marriage, she needs to get from the second husband. That's a rabbinic rule. Shelo yoimru, for people should not say that an ashes ish can become muteres without a get. We're going to have this din every now and then. If she only got kedushin from the second guy, she taka needs nothing. And by the way, you need to get from kedushin. You don't need it because she was never divorced from the first guy. But if she married a second guy, but the paper remains mine. We're learning about all of the mishugasan in the world. Mishugoyim. Thank God she's. Look at this guy. I'm giving you a get to get, but on the condition that later you gift me the paper. That's a seder. Harei get v'titein. She got the get. Now she fulfills the condition. She gives him back the paper, and she's divorced. Halacha tezvav chakak get al kashel zov. He gives it on a golden plate, and he tells her, and this is your ksuba because I'm giving you gold. It's good. The get is good, and she received her ksuba. Now, 1 second. What happens if the golden plate is only worth $20,000? The ksuba is $25,000. Then he owes her the other $5,000. Im yesh bataska de ksuvasa, im ein lo yashel ksuvasa. Halacha tazayin kol hamagadash al tanai. Shema vatalas aget kigoin. Like we mentioned, shehisna oleha shuletishte yain kol yemei chayeha. Which is not good. Oy shetiyamat escholad mechutz miploini. Oy shehisna shana traim before they wrote the Toidev. Now im hoya hatanai kosuv baget. And the guy goes ahead and he erases it and he gives it to her. So there's a doubt whether it's valid or not. In other words, since the get was written lechatchila in an unacceptable manner, so there's a question whether you can fix it or not. How would you fix it? By erasing that liner. That's much easier to fix. Then take the get back, give it to her again with a kosher tonight or without a tonight. This is saying, even the Tali Mimeno, now, which means she's not divorced, but guys, the get was written properly. So what do? You can fix it. Meaning, if he wants to use the same get, take the get back and give it to her again. and just make the normal statement that emotenes l'chol adam. Beautiful. Allah yutches hanoising el ishto yaltanai shetit loy mosayim zuz gebakuk. You have to give me 200 zuz. And v'chozev hisno l'altanai acher b'fnei edim. That you should serve my father for 2 years. And what did we learn in the beginning of this chapter? That any Tanai, if it's im, you can add another Tanai. Here's the question, Yakir. Is he making both, or is he saying either or? So we're saying it's either or. Either or. And now, if she wants mishameshes, if she wants she's noisenes, the ain echad min arashayim, the echad min achrayim, it's starfin. But she can do a little bit. I'll give you 100 zuz and help you. Yeah. But if it's money, 200 zuz, and then he says no, 300 zuz. We understand that he doesn't mean either 200 or 300. When he said 300, he meant not 200 is not enough. She has to give 300 zuz. And he doesn't give an end time. It means one day. Or so the din is that im asas imay melacha yoy mechad. Oishim sha'aviv yoy mechad. Oishirika b'noy yoy mechad. The toy chazman shaben yoynik boy, which is the 24 months from a vaginal birth, hadez a get. Now, meis haben or ya'av kodim shetonik or teshamish, which means she's now unable to fulfill the tanai. If she's unable to fulfill the tanai, then there's no get. Halacha chav amalah. Amana shetoniki esbeni oy tesham she is abba, but he adds the words shtei shanim. Now she has to do it the whole time. And now it's worse. In other words, if the son dies, or if the father dies, she did everything right, but she's unable to fulfill it. I don't want for you to service me. I get. But he says within today in 30 days. Now, here we have a Chassidic concept. What does giving mean? Giving means, guys, remember these words. Giving means there's a receiver. There's no receiver, there's no giver. And when it comes to receiving, let's go psychologically. I can give something against your will. It's also not called giving. Sure, there's a marriage, hello. If the other party is not receiving, then you're not giving. So she has to give it to him, which means he has to accept it. Then she's divorced. If she gives it after 30 days, but more. If she gives it to Bal Karchai, which means that when she gives it to him, he says, no, I don't want to receive it because I don't want to be divorced. How does it get puzzled? Now, listen to this. What did we say? Before the condition being met, he can add. Can he be moichel? Doesn't help. Doesn't help. Why? Because the condition was not met. Now, she's screaming, I want to give it to you. He's saying, no, I was moichel. What does moichel means? I'm not receiving it. That's the whole point. If he does not receive it, she never gave it, she did not fulfill the condition. Even though she says, I couldn't, doesn't matter. But the Lekavas man. Umeis koydem shetitin. Eino yechoyle litin leyarshav. Shelo hisna aleh elo shetitin loy. Now 1 second. Olei batal aget. Olei batal aget sharei lekavas man. Lefikach afa pisha avar aget denikra koydem sheyamus. Now guys, this is the word. Like we keep on saying, this is another expression of it. These are, you have to wrap your head around this. When a man gives a get al tanai, even though it's only fully effective when the tanai is met, but the get starts to be chal right away. And therefore, what's the point? To what extent? That she has to do chalitza. In other words, a divorced woman, no yibum, she cannot do yibum because she's not married. But she has to do chalitza. That's the extent. It's amazing. He gave a specific item, and that specific item was lost or stolen. Even if she's going to give him its value, she's going to say, you know what? That item is really worth $100. I'll give you $1,000. Ain't I get? By the way, when we said before about Mechila is not Mevatel Latanai. If he's Mevatel Latanai, she'll be divorced. And Allah Chafalev, it's that he told her, Amoichel. It's amazing. Final halach of this chapter, Bishan is Garshal Tanai. And the Kitcha Achar Koidim she's Chaim Atanai. Like we mentioned. Not Almanas, Im. And again, since the get starts to go into effect, so we say that if later the Tanai will be met, Harezu Mikodeshes. If she only had Kiddushin from the second husband, she doesn't even need a get because she's a married woman and in Kiddushin Toivs and Ba. But like we already mentioned once in this chapter, but if she marries the second man, which she shouldn't have, but she did, now it turns out that the get was not a get, which means the second marriage is not a marriage. Nevertheless, midrabanan, she has to get a get from the second husband. Farvas, like we learned in Halacha Yud Gimel, shelo yoimru eishes ish yoitzim min bayla b'lo get. And my friends, we are starting today's third chapter, which is a long chapter. It has 41 halachas. Well, God willing, come to them. We're not rushing, but we're rushing. What can we do? This chapter is going to be all miscellaneous types of conditions that are attached to a get or other types of miscellaneous rules regarding both the giving of a get. And also we're going to go back to today's first chapter when it comes to shlichus. It's going to be a very diverse chapter. So buckle your seatbelts, make a l'chaim, and let's dive into halacha aleph. Says the Rambam, Hamagodash ishtoi la'achar zman kavua. Now I know that we learned a whole chapter about a tanai. You can give a get on a condition. We don't do this now. But there's a huge difference between a man giving a get to his wife on a condition. And here's again, these are the words, guys, that we learned in the last chapter. It's very important. Even though the get is fully into effect only if and when the condition is made, but we also said that even if it's not ma'achshav, so there is a chalois haget, a beginning of a chalois haget immediately. It begins to go into effect. And we learned a couple of nafkaminas in the last chapter. Now I'll give you another scenario, not a condition. He's simply saying that the get will go into effect in 30 days. Not a condition, not if you'll do. He's saying it should only go into effect later. In that case, Yakir, it bichlal does not go into effect until 30 days. There isn't even the beginning of a chalois. In Zman and Makkah, if he says it should go into effect in 30 days, or I'm giving you a get, it's only going to go into effect when you go to that place. It's not a normal condition. Now, by the way, again, just to chazer, we learned in Hilchas Issues that when it comes to making conditions, there are 4 rules. Tanai kaful, hein kodim lalav, tanai kodim lamaisa, daf she'ef shalikayma. These are the 4 conditions. When a man says the get should go into effect after 30 days, none of these 4 conditions have to be met. Because it's not a tanai. It's simply saying it should only go into effect then. The then will come. If a person will use the formulation of a tanai by Azman, then it will have a din of a tanai. But if he says Atzman lachazman kavua, then harezu migoreshes only ishiagi azman kavua. Now, what does it mean only? Not like by a tanai. It's doimel tanai that she is gareshes kishigi azman kavua. The Einai Tanai, because Shahamagarash al Tanai, like we said in the last chapter, even before the condition is met, something began already. L'mashal, if she got married to another man that she shouldn't have, but if she got married, she doesn't get divorced from the other man. Because maybe the Tanai will be met. Here, dear Hadeza Gadish, but is there nothing? Adayin Gadish. It only begins and ends when that time comes. Gan Eden, and therefore, Hamagadash al Tanai, when you give a Tanai, here you don't have to have Lichbal Devarim. You don't have to do any of the 4 rules of a Tanai is not needed over here because it's not called a Tanai. It's not called a halachic condition. For example, halacha beis, this is your get bought. And by the way, you always have to begin with Harei Zagitech. You have to begin with a definitive statement. As we learned in the previous chapter, that if you have a get that is not machris, beinoy lebeina, absolutely, so you can say a condition is not machris, no, because when the condition will be met, it's complete kares. Harei Zagitech. But then he says, then that's such a statement is valid. No one does it nowadays, but theoretically it's effective. Therefore, for example, if the husband dies during the 30 days, if she loses the get, if it gets burned during the 30 days, garnished because it didn't even begin to go into effect. Halachi Gimel. Now, if this get was placed not in a public domain, we have to know other dinim kinyanim. Sidei reshus harabim, which you can say a sidewalk or a nook off the main public place, is an area which you can halachically argue it's now going to be designated for her. And the nigna of a misham after 30 days. In other words, when the 30th day came, it wasn't in her hand, but it wasn't in a public place. Yes, migoreshes. Beautiful. It wasn't in her hand, it was b'tzidei reshus harabim. V'yichad ha'oisu b'makam she'en reshus harabim, because shetzidei shram edim kereshus harabim, that will be effective. Halacha daled v'chein im tola gerishin b'maisa u'b'maisa. I take it back. Maisa. So there's man and maisa. Maisa meaning not a conditional maisa. Last chapter was a conditional maisa. What was the conditional maisa? Yakir, I'm gonna ask you give me money. But he has to say, I'm gonna ask you give me money. And if you don't give me money, you won't be divorced. In other words, if he formulates it like a tanai, that was last chapter. Sometimes he can formulate it not as a tanai. Then it will be dinoi kedin megarash achar zman, which is yakir. It bechlal doesn't go into effect at all, only until when the zman comes. For example, going to amala isha hadei zegiteich, period. V'loit is garshi boy. Guys, in the last chapter it was im titli masayim zuz v'im loy titli ena megureshes. And also he makes that tonight kafuli. Here he just makes that statement, not ad, very good, not im, thank you. Then it's also effective, but not mitzad din tonight. Again, lamay nafkamina. So there's really three things, guys. There is giving it ad zman ploini, ad maisa. It doesn't go into effect at all. There's giving it on a Tanai of Im. It starts to go into effect now, but it's only fully into effect when the Tanai is met, lahaba. And then you have a Tanai of Ma'achshav, that not only does it start to go into effect now, but if the Tanai is met, then it goes into effect retroactive. These are the three madregas. The Einoit Sorech, Harezem Misgoreshes Achar Shetitin, Einoit Sorech Lech Betanai, Oil Sharmish Betayatanoim, Shabiyarno, Sharei Loigedish Al Tanai. There's nothing. Now the Rambam will explain. So we gave three cases. Really, number one is Tanai, which was last chapter. Number 2 and number 3 are both the same. That's what we introduced in this chapter. Guys, not when the Tanai is met. Even in a Tanai of Im, it's Chal, not all of it. It begins to go into effect right away. Elamav, Enim Gemurim, Achi Yikayim Atanai. Lefikach Kishi Yikayim Atanai. Nisgarsha. Im Hoya get Kayim, even though it's not in her Rishus. I'm not talking about Sidei Rishus Harabim. That was the exception. That was in the last chapter. Because since it started to go into effect when it was in her hand, and it was in her hand, another din that we learned in the last chapter, that if she wrongfully got married before the Tanai was met, she should not get divorced. That's last chapter. That's Al Tanai. But this chapter, first of all, it never came into her domain as a get. It's like a pikadon. She's like a shoymer, a shoymeres. It's a beautiful way of wording it. Not betoides gedushin. Acha azman shekava. And therefore, like this, kishegi azman tzricha liyas haget b'reshusa, or she has to take it. The only exception is what we learned before. If it was b'tzidei reshus harabim, and you designated tzidei reshus harabim for her. And only then can she be divorced. Another thing, that if a woman who got a get, not al tanai, but ad zman ploini, if she marries someone else, koidim shegias man shekava boy, or koidim shetas hamayis otol by gedushin, she has to get divorced from the second guy. And God forbid if she has a child that Vlad is a mamzer. Shadaini Eshes is Gemura, Ve'en Kan, Shum Gerushin, or Shem Gerushin. Clear. Wow, halacha vav. Guys, we didn't even begin to scratch the chapter. This chapter is going to go. But that's like an intro. Hanoisen get the Yad Ishtay V'Amallah. That's why we woke up last night. Listen to this. Im loy titne li mosayim zuz ein get. This chacham. Oy ein at migoreshes. Right? If you don't give, you won't be divorced. What did he not say? He did not say Hare zegite. He did not say Hare unteres l'choladam. He's made a statement that implies, when he says, if you don't give me, you're not divorced. What does that imply? That if you'll give me, you will be divorced. Implied is worth 0 by a get. That's another rule. The aim can get, not a tanai, not all of b'maiseh. Speaking like that, which is an illness that many people have, because they were spoken like that by their parents. This is a generational thing. This is one of the snakes going back to the beginning. Is completely not effective. You have to speak clear, not implied, explicit. Halacha zayin. No. You won't be blamed. Then you'll have a normal relationship. Things will be clear. That what? In other words, you're making a tanaya kid, but you don't want him to be Pedek Ches. You want it to be Pedek Tes. Don't use the Lashon of a tanai. You said good yakir. Im, ad. That's it. But it's not only it. It's im with all the 4 things. Don't do any of the 4 rules. Don't use the words im. Use the word ad. That's it. You're going to share a lot. Im, see im, that kills it. Im loy basi mikan ba'at shleishim yoyim harei zaget. Im basi mitech shleishim yoyim lo yaget. You understand that? That's called a tanai. And I get biyada. Now there's another tanai, right? In tanai itself, there's im and there is ma'achshav. Here also, harei zagitech me'achshav im loy basi mikan shleishim yoyim. Or harei zagitech hamenash lo yavel minash shleishim yoyim. This makes it into Pedek Ches. No, it's the wording it will determine whether it's totally b'maiseh or whether it's a tanai. Allah Ches, he's no allowed to get. Now let's go into these types of conditions. This is your get. Im loy ba'at shleishim yom dimazu. You're making the tanai. We're going back to tanoim, guys. You always think about a tanai that you have to do. This is the tanais that you don't. He was doing his best to break the Tanai, but he got sick, or the river overflowed, and he did not come. Did he meet the condition? Yes, he did. What was the condition, Yakir? For him not to come. He didn't come. The guy is standing and shouting, "Oi, I'm an oinus. I want to come. I want to be mamatal to get. Ein oinus begitten." The beginning of gitten, Chavre. And let me explain to another nuance. Why does the Rambam write it over here, Yakir? This is the key. Because when you give a get al tanai, it already started to be chal. The condition was met. When the condition was met, you didn't want to meet it, too late. Halacha 9. He's not allowed. That shet is gadish, kishayavar mikineged panel shloishim yom. It'll be effective. Listen to these words, Yakir. You know when they will be effective? When 30 days will pass without seeing your face, without me walking by you. Which means, what? Now this guy doesn't want. He changed his mind. So what is he doing the whole time? Which is another detail, guys, because if there is yichud, we learned this in the last chapter. After a get is given, al tanai, then it's mavatal the get. Guy is doing this for 10 years. Finally, one time, he went on a business trip. Boom! Timi Goreshes. Now, there's another detail. Whenever a guy throws such a condition, there's something called him appeasing her and them Yakir verbally agreeing. If they agree together, there's no get. That's mabatal the get. So how do you b'chlal know that such abuse didn't happen? And let's go back to today's first chapter. We don't want for a woman to have a get, but oifen, that he can later make a claim easily and mess it up for her. Peirik Zayin was Mazuiv. He can say, no. We made a stipulation, but it took me 10 years. During those 10 years, we made up. So when a guy gives a condition, he has to say, he has to be moida, that I will always accept what my wife says. If my wife is going to say that I was not Mafayas, sir, she should be believed. That's over here. That he told her, but if he never made such a statement, and this type of condition, he was constantly there. In other words, it's only going to go into effect in a year. And now we're talking about Pedic test. It's not a condition. But the fact that they are together for a year, if they are together, there is a chashash that during the year Shema Piyes. So there's another detail needed that he has to also say that I will believe her if she'll claim, which means I don't have the power to say that there was a piyus. So which gives her the power. So she then can get married on that get. Halacha yud. Kol hatunoim shem tuloim beretzoyna ve'im rotzos umachala oisam ubala bitla get choshon lo shema piyes at sheyoim en amen asolai. Remember this. That we say that maybe he was Matthias, maybe there was Pius. So you have to have this new detail that not only must all of the Tanais be done properly, but he also has to make the statement, because she'll leave her gaspa after marriage. Halacha Yudal, guys, other miscellaneous. So he's making a tanai. He's making a tanai ma'achshav, but the kiyum hatanai is for non-action. If I don't come, and he didn't come, maybe he came and you didn't know. Ein choishes sheshem abba seiset. She'ein derech b'nei yodom lo v'bitzino. Ve'im tam azman v'kova v'loi ba harezu migoreshes. But beis b'tech shnei masar chodesh. Af api she'i efsher sheyavoi. Which means we know the Tanai will be met, right? We know she'll be divorced, yet that's amazing. In other words, he died. What does she become if he dies, Yakir? Think about it. What does she become? Before the get, she's an almana. An almana is chayv to do evil. She can't do anything yet. She can't be meyabam either because she will be divorced, but she'll only be divorced at the end of 12 months. Halacha Yud Beis, bari she hisna sheyeh ze get imeis. Oh, buddy, if I'll die, you'll be a get. Aychayla she hisna she is a get imeis mechayli ze. Why lo amar klum? No, what's the words here? You remember? Ein get la'achar misa. Shemashma imati la'achar misa. Umashma now. He's saying like this. You could say that the get should be ma'achshav, but we don't know for sure. If he would have meant it that way, it would be good. Lefike chamamad imati. Hareze koimel achar moisi ve'en get la'achar mis. What halacha yud gimel amalo hareze gitech ma'achshav imati hu ma'achshav imati or mahayoim imati. Hareze get. Uchshiyam ustem megoreshes. Halacha yudal amalo hareze gitech ma'achshav. Oy mahayoim. Then he says la'achar misasi. What do we have, guys? What's this? What's the sugya called? Tfais lashon nishain, tfais lashon achrain. It's two opposite statements. Did he change his mind or did he clarify? Umeis hadez asafek migoreshes. Because shema achar she'omar ma'achshav, the second statement was a retraction from the first statement. What was the second statement? La'achar misa. We said la'achar misa won't be affected and get la'achar misa. Maybe he meant that. Now, maybe he meant to clarify, it should go ma'achshav. But we have a doubt. When the sun comes up, Umeis balayla ain't a get. Why? Because when the condition was met, the man was dead. Ain't get lachamis. Almanasha tizrach on the condition that the sun will go up. That's good. You know, umeis balayla and we get ashes. But we have to have the sun coming up, which is quite amazing. But when the sun goes up, it goes back to Lamafreya. Here's no lea. She'im zorcha chama yeget, ve'im lo zorcha li yeget. Umeis balayla ain't a get. She'den is coming time out shemeis. Ain't get lachamiso. Gewaltig. Halacha tezayin. Shchiv Mena. Now, what's the unique thing of a Shchiv Mena? B'chlal, a Shchiv Mena, not only are his words like a kinyan, but there's a din by a Shchiv Mena that if he's giving everything away as a gift, we make an umdana, he only did it because he thought he's dying. Which then means that if he gets healthy, whatever he did is undone. We don't do that by a get. Here we go. Shchiv Mena shekaz gala ishta. And why would he do it? Because the guy, let's say he has no kids, and he has a brother at Nudnik, he doesn't want her to fall the chalitz. Or not. He gave it v'gerish. And now he gets better. Eina yochel lachzer boy. The way he is chayzer by everything else. She'en gitakim atanase. And then why? She'im toimer yachzer boy. What does that mean? It means, how will people view it? If he can retract, if he lives, people will understand that to mean that the get only went into effect after death, because until death he could retract. Then people would think that there's a get la'achar misa. Yoimru gita la'achar misa yigarish. Kamay matanasa sheina koina la'achar misa. Halacha yudzayin. Areza gitech mahayoim. Imati mechoy lizeh. Imati mechoy lizeh. Everything is amazing. We're just running. Now, imati mechoy lizeh. The guy was sick. He never got better. But you know what happened? He died because the building collapsed on him. V'nafal all of bias. He was bitten by a snake. He was devoured by a lion. He never got better from the illness, but he didn't die, Mechoyli said. There ain't a get. She's an almana. But if I won't get up from this illness. Did he get up from the illness? No, the house collapsed on him. He died from the house, but he never got up from the illness. But no, it's not bad. Because maybe he meant, if I don't get up from the illness, maybe he meant that I'll die from the illness. He didn't die from the illness. Or mahayoim, retroactive, imati mechoy lizeh. V'amad v'holach bashuk. And then he got sick and he died. Now, just because a guy gets up, it doesn't mean he was out of the woods. He never got better. Just the illness changed. Because when a person has one illness, and they go straight from one illness into another illness and they die, it's all from the first illness. It's like when you give the car to the mechanic, you understand? And then they fix that and they ruin that. It's all one big thing over here. Halacha yutes. Kol hayamim. Shem nesinas haget. Achi yamus v'yiskayim batnai. By tenoyim. Harei he nigoreshes l'chol davar. Because if there's yichud, they might have a relation, and if they have a relation, it's mabatal to get. Halacha chav, as we learned, as we already explained, right? Perik ches halacha beis. Choila sheratza legarish istoi al tenai, that if kishayamus, then she should be divorced lamafreya prior to death. Why? For example, kadesh leitipol lifnei yavam. But the im amad. But he wants to make it clear that if he does get better, he doesn't want her to be divorced. So just give her a get. No, that's too much. A person, people cannot do things that disturb them. No, he has rachmanas on her. He cannot give her a get. So kach hu koisev baget achar shu koisev atoyre. Oy oimer lo kishnoisen aget. Now, what would you have to do, Yakir? Just make a condition. There's a side in. What's it called? Al tiftach pelasot. Or don't open up with negative. Now, normally, what would be the condition? There has to be hey koydem lolav. One of the rules of a get, which is if I'll die, you should be divorced from now. You can't begin if I'll die. You have to say, if I won't die. I guess you opened up, not dying. But you have to say, Hein Kodim Lalav. So you have to repeat it 3 times. If I won't die, won't be a get. If I will die, it will be a get. If I won't die, it won't be a get. You understand us normal people? Im loy mati lo yeget. Im mati yeget. But it has to be Hein Kodim Lalav. That's one of the 4 rules of Tanayim. The im loy mati lo yeget. Why? Like this, you have to do a Tanai kafel. You have to do Hein Kodim Lalav. So be normal. Give her the get and say no, because that's odd. That's the whole thing of Perek Tes. He wants to make a Tanai. And a Tanai has to be a Tanai kafel Hein Kodim Lalav. Don't begin negative. Now it works. The imays tia migoreshes kisha yamus. Whoa. That kishegia get the other kind of misa, because by a Tanai, what's the pshat? Ain't get la'achar misa. No. She got to get. The get started to go into effect. Beautiful. Halacha chafal. Bal shenos and get la'achar. The guys, we're moving on for many miscellaneous. Tzchei beget zel leishti kedei shalei tipol lifnei yavim. Umeis habal koivim sheyagia get liyada. Now here, what are the rules, guys? Zachan la'adam shalei b'fanav, but ein chavan la'adam ela b'fanav. She never appointed him. For her to be divorced, if he would only be a shliach lohilacha, he died. Can't get achamis. Elaman, maybe he's a shliach like Kabbalah. So we say safek megoreshes. What's the doubt? Because it's not absolute that she wants to be divorced. Maybe she wants to marry the yavam. You don't know, or any other reason. For most women, but not all. Ulefikach te'ei safek migoreshes afa bishli get liyada hoil v'zachar by acher. Halacha. No, we don't know. So we don't listen to her now. What we do is that look what happens. Safek migoreshes means she cannot marry a kohen. She might be a migoreshes. Truth is, she has to get chalitza. She can't do even. It's all from after memachman from all the sides. Halacha chabes. Amalo edim. We're halfway through the chapter. Only do it after 12 months. They can only write it and if they wrote it b'toich hazman, even though they gave it to her achar hazman, ain't no get. But they died. The husband died prior to giving it. Also ain't a get. If we don't know in Misa Kodim L'Sinas again, there's going to go Misa. We don't know. Safek Migurashes. Another detail. Halacha of Gimel. Amar lahem kisvu trul achar shavuos. So now that we said halacha of Beis, they have to follow his instruction. What happens if the guy says write it after the Shemitah cycle? So I'll tell you by heart this halacha. After the Shemitah cycle is 7 years. It's not that they can write it any times after the Shemitah cycle. They have to write it right after the Shemitah cycle. And the Rambam is going to give the cutoff point. And if they write it after, too late. Ein koisven ella, they only have the first year after the Shemitah cycle. In other words, after a prolonged period, they no longer are shluchim. If he tells them after a year. So when is after a year? Not for the next million years. Yeah, I know the next million years is after this year. No. After year means the first month after the year. Only the first month. If he tells them la'achar chodesh, they only have 1 week, the first week of the chodesh. If the guy says after the Shabbos, only 1 day. They have to write it on Sunday. Oh, I'm sorry. After Shabbos means until Yom Shlishi. That's why Havdalah you can make until Yom Shlishi. Or write it before the next Shabbos. What's before the next Shabbos? You can argue right now. No. Only Miyom Revi. Vatsoif Yom Shishi. V'noistem long. That's the Luchun Ranano that we say on the Shir Shlayim of Yom Revi. That's when Shabbos begins. Halacha Havdalah. But if they did not do it, if they did wait this prolonged amount of time, what did the Rambam write? Achar chodesh means they only have the first week of the next month, only the first week, but they wrote it within the second week. Hadei's apostle, halacha chafei, another than this yachad ima achar shamalot, lichter lach litin. If there was yichud, hadei's alay yikos v'kalvachem advarim. If a get that was given to her, like we mentioned, and after she got a get, if the husband has yichud, Ifsad haget shema Baal kal v'chomer l'zeh shalei nichtav. It's garnished, ain't a get. Another dinim. The man tells, you can turn your pages. It's like davening Musaf on Yom Kippur, right? The Musaf Rosh Hashanah. When I was a kid, how many pages left? That's what's going on over here. If a man tells 10 people, Yisvu get le'ishti, did he mean that they all have to write it? No. He meant that any one of you can write it. But he wants all of them to be somehow involved. How does that happen? One has to write al yidei kulam. He says, I'm writing it on behalf of all the other 9. That's the fulfillment. If he says the words kulchem kesoivu, you also don't need for all 10 to write. But you know what you need? You need for one to write in the presence of all of them. If he says, hoilichu gets el ishti, hoilichu, you guys, he said it to 10. Then again, one does it on behalf of all. If he says, kulchem hoilichu gets el ishti, guys, they all have to walk it. Only one guy has to give it. But in other words, one guy has to walk it in the presence of all of them. This is just the beginning. He's telling 10 people. So just like we had an halacha chavav, that if he doesn't say the word kulchem, he does not need all of them, but he wants one to do it on behalf of all. So here also, echad mehem koisef. Only two have to sign. Only one has to give on behalf of all. More than that, you can overlap the people. Next level is if he says kulchem chasoimu, then kulam chaismen. The imanam, if he counted the people, whether he counted all of them, whether he counted some of them, and he said chasoimu, it's like he said kulchem chasoimu. Now, another nuance, guys. If I say kulchem yakid halkab, 10 people. What's the din of Adam? You have to have 2 Adam. So if the guy says kulchem, and they all have to sign, it's not pshat they are all signing b'toidas Adams. The first 2 have to be kosher Adam. The others is fulfilling the Tanai. Ushnayim shechais mematchila, they are Adam, and everyone else is the fulfilling of the condition. And that's very important. Lefika. Even if the other ones are not kosher witnesses, it doesn't matter. They were fulfilling the condition. Guys, you should know that Adam must sign a get on the date of the get. So if the first 2 signed on the day of the get, the other 8 signed later, you're good. Because they're not betoidas edus, they're betoidas tonight. Afilo yomer haber is a kosh. Meis echadem koidem chasimo. The Tanai is not met. How does it get puzzled? Hoya echad mishnayim reshoinim puzzle. Got to get puzzled. Because the first 2 are the Edom. Shema Yoimru, 8 puzzle, kosher be'edu, shash doris. Be'eshiyu ha'edem rabim. Which we can't even partake. Then in that case, use from the other 8. You can't do that. Now, there's another rule. When you have a document many people sign, we never say, Yakir, that since 2 are good, I don't care who the others are. I do care. The only time where you tolerate many signatories, which is by a get. Why? Because really, but nevertheless, not to Shelo Yomru, it's going to be not good. If the first 2 are not kosher, the first 2 have to be kosher. Allah Chavches, Allah Koyach, Tiknu Chachamim, Shehoemer LeRabim, Lichtoid Geto Lachtem Eloich Get LeIshtoi, Im Leksiva. He should tell them to make it clear. Kol Echad Mikem Yichtoid Get LeIshtoi. Kol Echad Mikem. This means, Yakir, not all of you, any one of you. He should make it clear. Any one of you. Any one of you should take it. Call any 2 of you. If not, people can understand it to be the word kulchem, and that changes everything. By chasima, like we said. Now, halacha chavtas. That Eidei Haget ein chois from elazeh b'fnei zat. Now you know why. Because gezeda shema yomer olamam kulchem chasim. And if he says kulchem, everyone has to sign. Now, im timer chois from b'fnei zeh shema yidu shnayim. Only 2 will sign, and she'll get the get, and they'll think that you're good when it's not good, because kulchem becomes like a tanai. That's why Chazal say that by Eidei Haget, everyone has to sign. Halach alam. Amar l'shloisha shnayim mikem yichtemu get leishti. V'yachtemu v'yitnu la. Shnayim of you three, any two of the three. Now, hoye behem avu b'noi. Ben shachasam o avim o acher, ben shachasam o ben o acher. Harei ze kosher. What's the chiddush? The three people. Now, the chiddush here is that one might have thought that whenever there's a father and a son present, you dafka want to have the father because to give covet. We don't say that. Any two of the three. Now, it has to be two that are not korevim. It cannot be avu b'noi, but it could be avim ha'acher or b'noyim ha'acher. She'adam oisa ben shliach b'makam ha'av. It's not disrespectful. Halacha lamed aleph. Amar l'shnayim kisvu v'chisvu utnu l'ploni she'yoylech le'ishti. Not write it, sign it, and give it. Write it and sign it and appoint someone else to give it. Or if he tells Reuven, give it to a shliach to give it to her. Echad mehem koisef, shnaim choismim, and they have to give it to a shliach. And if they delivered it themselves, einoy get. Shaloi also oisem shliach legerushin. He said clearly, make someone else. Keitzad yasu yitlu oisem emenu, and if they gave it to her, take it back. Take it back. V'yitlu shliach v'choizon oisem b'fneiam or b'fnei achedim. Now, but Rabbi Zajac heard get the Dover Zashe in Adira. We don't have time to say what they said. Bottom line is, halacha lamed aleph is what Chazal meant. Halacha lamed beis. Amala soifer ksoiv li get li ishti. Ksoiv li get li ishti. Sovei unosani labal beloy edim. Now, by the way, we're speaking about the get is not signed by edim. The get was not signed by edim. Unatana habal. There's no edim here, and he gave it to a shliach. And he tells the shliach 10 gets eli ishti b'fnei edim. The halach hashliach b'nei edim, not good. Sofik megoreshes. Why? See, Yakin, normally when a man has a get that was signed and he gives it to one shliach to give it, he can give it. Here you don't have anyone signed in it yet. She'ein hashliach nemel hated ever afapishu eid echad el mepnei ksav ho edim shechasmu alaget. Let's go back to Perek Zayin. And we say, and here there's no Edom. But the but one second, what happens? What happens? Like no Edom sign, but at least there are two Edom that saw the husband giving it to the Shliach. That's good. But if you don't even have that, there's too much resting on the testimony of the Shliach. He tells her where to give it. And he gave it in another place, ain't zaget. But if he tells the shliach, give it to her, and I want you to know that she is Mamakam Pliny, and he didn't give it to her in that location. He gave it to her in the shliach's location. That's good. Why? Because he didn't say Bimakam Pliny. He only notified the shliach where she is. That's called, he was Maramakim Hulay. He was simply pointing out where she's at. He was not making that as part of that. Has to be there. Amar loy al titnenu lo elabayis. Give it beyond plain in the son of B'techazman. Ain't a get. Which means not only not before, not even after. When the son of also ain't a get. Masha Enken, if he says al titneullah beyond plain yakir. Then we say he cannot give it before, but he can give it later. Halacha lamadal. Chenu isham shlucha iskabel legiti bimakim ploini. Dafke. The kibul amakam acher ene get. But havi legiti limakim ploini. Bring it to me and give it to me in LA. And he brought it, and he gave it to her in New York, and she received it in New York. The fact that she was mekabel, it shows that she was not makbid. Then kasher. Halacha lamadei. We got it. We learned this in Perek Shvi. But but if the shlichus wasn't only to give a get, now it's going to get fun. The shlichus was also, now listen to the seder in this case. Take something she has for me and give her the get. He's not allowed to appoint another shliach. You know why? Because he also wants for this guy to pick up something for him. Who says he trusts that other person to hold something for him? He doesn't want. Gewaldig. And ve'im shilcha b'yad achar v'yotza so ish lekras hashliach. And she gave the chayfetz batchila. Yeah. Now, if they broke that, she's going to be megoreshes. You know why? He didn't want for someone else to hold the chayfetz. He didn't want that. But as far as the get is concerned, his request was followed, which is first pick it up and then give the get. But if the other shliach first gave the get and then picked it up, whether it is the other shliach or even the first shliach, ain't no get. Because he says, first get the chayfetz and then give the get. Because the Baal says, first, and the guy changed the order. Halacha Lamed Zayin, guys, this is amazing. Amaloi, guys, how come if a man, a husband tells us, it's like a Tanai. Yes, it is. Amaloi, now if the husband said, give her the get, and then also, like we mentioned, because as far as Pikadon is concerned, but if Shilcha B'yad Achar, Hadei get, now it doesn't matter the order. Now it doesn't, even if they change the order, even better. If he changed it for the better, if he first took the chayfetz. Because the guy didn't care. The guy says you can give it to her first. If he says you can give it to her first, he was not makbid. It doesn't have to be that. It's like maramakah. If he says first take the chayfetz and then give the get, he was makbid on that side. Halacha lamed ches. Nosan haget l'shliach v'amaloi al yitnei la ela ato. Only you. That's something else. He appointed a shliach that ain't a get. You are not qualified. You have to give it to Leplini for who yitna Allah. Unasanu shliach harishan and a get. Lefi shaloi son shliach legerish. Allah halamates. Nosan la get v'amaloi hoylach get zela ishti. And the shliach says, "Eini makiro. I don't know who your wife is." Amalei habal. Okay. Teneu Leplini who makiro. That guy knows her. Areize shliach loinitan legerushin ve'eino noisin haget elo leploni shamar abal ve'oisa ploni hu shliach hagerushin ve'hu shemalicha lo mishach v'yadachram chaloin enas. In other words, you can't say Yakir that the reason why the husband originally told him shliach rishon should give it. The shliach rishon tells the husband, "I don't know her," so he says, "Okay, give it to Chaim Yankel." What happens if later someone shows the shliach rishon who she is? He cannot give it anymore. Because now that he says, give it to Chaim Yankel, not him. Halacha mem. Nosan haget l'shliach. V'omaloi al titnei yula at shloishim yoim. And v'choloi nenes v'teich ha-shloishim. Shalcha b'yadach. Even though that he cannot even give it now. Hoyul la'achar shloishim yoim yeh shliach gerushin. And in this case, oisa shliach achar v'teich ha-shloishim. Final halacha in this Perek, halacha mem alfa. Medvaram amurim. Yay. V'shaloi hoya baila ima b'medina. Oy, shoysim is gadeshes mino edosin, avol is gadeshes when I'm a suyin, and the husband is with Medina. There's another fear. You have to always remember this. That what? This guy, guys, this goes to any time where there's a condition yakir that stipulates that there's a certain amount of time where there won't be a get. During that time, if they are together, there's always a fear. Maybe they were mafites. And then he can only do it if he also adds, we already learned this above, that she will always be believed to say, and we suspect that it was nullified.